your organization is all about human powered activities. That is part of our decision making. We are not doing roller coasters. We're not doing zip lines. Uh, we believe in human powered activities.
Thank you again, David, for joining me today on the Trip Outside podcast.
Yeah, it's great being
David,
here.
yeah, thank you. We got to spend time in Taos, and I kind of wish this was last week. So I was recording this from your parking lot at the Ski Valley because that's where we stayed for a few days and enjoyed that amazing Xylia winter storm that dumped a ton of powder and buried us in your parking lot. Uh, but overall, I just wanted to say that Taos has been one of my favorite places to snowboard. Uh, the resort itself, the staff is so phenomenal. And during these crazy times, you guys did such an incredible job of providing a great experience. It never really felt, it didn't feel any different than any other year. Obviously, things were very, very different, but your staff was so front and center, making sure people were having a great time at the resort. And just wanted to start the show with thanking you guys for the great work that you're doing there.
Oh, I'm glad you were here. You nailed it. We had 36 inches last week, and you had perfect timing. So, way to go.
Yeah, with a little bit more on the way to finish the year.
Yeah, no, we picked up, as I said, we picked up probably 8 or 9 inches over the last 36 hours, and it looks like we may have a whopper hitting us tonight. So the skiing is fantastic. We're back to midwinter conditions, and it's been a really fun year.
That's phenomenal. Yeah, I think we all needed it. Given all other factors that we didn't have going for us this year. Well,
Yeah,
uh,
just to touch a little bit on that, uh, going into the ski season was a big challenge. Nobody had ever operated a resort during a pandemic before, and we worked on a lot of COVID safe practices, mostly under what the New Mexico government has outlined for businesses. We now have we've been screening our staff every single day. We do testing once a week. We now have over 2,000 tests in the books, and we have a
wow,
zero positivity rate. So it's
that is
been
incredible.
one is stay outdoors. I mean, outdoors is the place to be. Uh, and second, follow these protocols because they actually work. And so we're so happy. Once we opened, we stayed open. Everything's been consistent, and we've got a zero positivity rate. I think we may be one of the only resorts in the country. I don't even know in the world that has achieved that. So we're very fortunate that we've got a staff that believed in the social responsibility side of this pandemic, and it's worked out very nicely for us.
That is really incredible to hear, and it's great to hear that it works when you follow these processes. Hopefully, a few years from now, you'll be used as a case study on how to do things right. uh, Not just from a customer point of view of keeping things open, but your staff. Those guys are working day in and day out, and it could spread so easily within the staff, and it could have such a big impact on the operations and then to the customers from there. So you taking it seriously and your entire staff going through all the pain of doing these extra steps to keep things running is truly important, and it was great to hear that it worked. As a country,
Yeah,
it's
thank
great to
you.
hear that we figured something out.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Yeah. So tell us a bit more about Taos, the mountain, the resort history. Um, how long has it been around? I know it's not. It's a little bit of a hidden gem, and I think most people probably like that about Taos. And
Yeah.
hopefully, we won't change that too much too fast. But I'm sure uh, it's not your main resorts that are very found and really crowded. I really enjoyed my experience. But um, what's unique about it? And I have my own take on it that I'll definitely go into. But a bit of history would be great.
Yeah. So the resort was founded in 1955, and by Ernie Blake, and the Blake family ran the resort. Actually, it was going on to the third generation into uh, just being around 2014. So the Blake family had owned it. It was independently owned. It was independently operated. It is one of the true iconic resorts in the country. It still is independent. We've got incredible terrain, and the terrain is terrain that you would find when you think of the class resorts that we're in. It's Squaw Valley, Alta, Snowbird, Jackson, Aspen Highlands. I mean, that's the type of ski terrain we have. We're also very fortunate because we're in northern New Mexico. And our base elevation is 9,000 feet. We're north facing. So what a lot of people don't realize is the snow quality here is fantastic. It's very, very dry. And when we get the snow, and now we've got a very robust snowmaking system to kick us off in October, November. But once we get the snow, we retain it really well because we're high, we're dry, and we're north facing. So we don't get any type of thaw. We don't get mid-season rain. And so the snow retention is fantastic. So as that base builds up, it just keeps building. So it's, the skiing improves throughout the year. We have over 100-inch base right now, and the skiing is fantastic.
That's
But
incredible.
I think a big part of the story is a revitalization that we're currently undergoing. So the ownership changed in 2014, and we've got a very significant revitalization going on right now. We've got a new lift that takes us up to 12,481 up to the Kachina Peak. We've got a new Begin to Learn ski center. I'd like to chat with you about that a little bit later. We have upgraded snowmaking system. We've got a new hotel called the Blake, which is also independently owned and one of the top ranked hotels in the country, right? Actually, in all of North America right now.
Wow. Yeah, it's
Um,
beautiful.
yeah, yeah, and as part of this revitalization, in 2017, we became the first ski resort in the world certified as a B corporation. And B corporations are those entities that are assessed on their economic contribution to the community, including philanthropic work, environmental sensitivity, and social responsibility. Patagonia, Ben and Jerry's, Dr. Bronner's, uh, New Belgian Brewing, Seventh Generation. These are the great, well-known B corporations. There's over 3,000 of them in the world right now. We're the first and only ski resort to be certified as a B corporation. So that has really led to a lot of the work that we've done going forward. And it's probably one of the reasons why we've had such a good year from the COVID safe practices standpoint, because the culture is built on environmental and social responsibility. So that's a big piece of what we've been doing.
I think that's really incredible. I think someone has to take the lead on it. And I think what we're saying and what you're doing with these the B corporation model in general is let's take a longer view than just profits and profitability and growth and think about the other things that are impacting um, the industry. Or, I think doesn't matter what industry you're in. I think everything has some negative impact. And I think the B Corps and some organizations are taking that view of how can we do a little bit better and keep this going for a longer term and think about all the impacts that happen with fast growth that we may not keep in mind right now. So I think it's incredible that you guys are taking the view for uh, environmental impact, and I think inclusion is another part of what you're working on with the local communities. But what are some of the specific initiatives that go into that you guys are doing leading at Taos under that B Corp model?
Yeah, sure. No, you've got to look at everything that you do environmentally and socially right now. And what we have done is there are so many different pieces. We created a document that's called 101 Ways in Counting that identifies these different things that we've done. So we can point to those efforts that we've taken. Hopefully next year it's going to be 201 ways in counting. But some of the things that we've done. First, we're talking about equity. And several years ago, we took our entry level pay much higher than the local minimum wage. And 2 years ago, we realized that that wasn't enough. So we no longer pay a minimum wage, we pay a living wage. And MIT puts out a standard They give you a living wage index for every county in the country. So we pay a living wage. We've eliminated a minimum wage. Uh, we understand the importance of pay equity, and we've gone through all of our payroll and our staffing models and looked at every single job. And we assessed whether people of the same race, the same, or I'm sorry, of different race, of different gender, of different age, were getting the same pay. We wanted to make sure that everybody was getting the same pay, regardless of age, gender, or race. So we've leveled the playing field from that standpoint. We've done lots and lots of work on sustainable forestry work. And as you know, the West is burning up. The wildfires, every single year, they're getting hotter, they're burning faster, they're more intense. And we've worked with the Nature Conservancy of New Mexico and what's an organization called the Rio Grande Water Fund, where we're going in and we're selectively thinning our forest, removing the fuels from the forest. And what you do is you create a healthier forest, you reduce the wildfire risk, and you protect the headwaters of all of New Mexico, the Rio Grande River. Every single year we're going into our forests, we're doing the thinning that's required, we're removing the ladder fuels. And what you will do is you'll basically create an environment where the fire can't get through because the forest is so healthy. That's been a major effort. The nice thing for us as skiers is when we do this, we get nice, beautiful gladed terrain like Wild West. Now it's some of the best terrain that we have now because it's all thinned
Cool.
out and it's a great forest. One other example is as we undergo this revitalization, you look at access, and people said, "Oh, I've heard about Taos. I want to get there, but I can't." So we actually introduced an airline called Taos Air, and we have introduced flights to Dallas, Austin, San Diego, and Los Angeles nonstop right into Taos, which makes it very, very convenient. But when we were putting together the concept, we said to ourselves, we're a B corporation, and airlines have a great negative impact on the environment. So what will we do about that? We reached out to another B corporation called Native Energy in Burlington, Vermont. They did a complete calculation of our carbon footprint. They measured the metric tonnage of carbon we would be producing with this airline, found organizations that are either reducing or sequestering carbon. And now we are investing in the grasslands of Colorado, which is a sequestration of carbon, so that the airline is net zero. We think it's the first airline in the world to be net zero. We've got 2 airplanes and we're operating net zero. So there's a lot of things that you can do. Those are just a few examples, but the list goes on and on. And once you start, you got to keep on going. And that's the beauty of it, just to add to the list of things.
Yeah, it's going to be never ending because the problems keep evolving, and you're going to have new challenges all the time. But that's really great. And I saw it myself. That I believe it's the first time I've seen aluminum water bottles at a ski resort, and it said, "Please reuse this and take one with you." And it all starts with very little things like that make that user a little bit more mindful, even when they leave the resort, about what does that mean? How can I do this in the rest of my life? So I love what you're doing.
That's right. No plastic bottle. We got rid of plastic bottles. We got rid of plastic straws. The Blake, our new hotel, it's heated and cooled with a geothermal well field that we built into our new beginner terrain. So we have a food digester downstairs below my office. We take about 400 or 500 pounds of food waste. We put in the food digester. A couple days later, we've got about 40 pounds of this beautiful amendment that we put on the slopes to help revegetate the sloped areas. So yeah, the list goes on and on. But what's nice and what's encouraging is when you start the practice and when you start the work, your staff starts to take note. They start to bring the ideas forward, and you start to really build on it very, very nicely.
Yeah, that's incredible. And I saw that even through your B Corp ecosystem, that you can collaborate with other teams and hopefully share these ideas with the rest of the ski industry, where they can implement, even if small components of this, and make a big impact across. When you think about the number of people that visit and the amount of traffic that gets condensed into these ski resorts during that time. So hopefully this uh, catches a good nice tailwind, and it gets implemented everywhere across the country, across the ski resort industry and the ski industry. And I see great organizations like POW taking the initiative to start talking about sustainability and conservation with ski. You guys are
Yeah,
also
that,
rated.
yep,
Go ahead.
that's right.
You're rated some of the highest in ski school, one of the best ski schools to help people get into skiing. And how is that? What got you that accolade? And what are uh, what are some of the challenges in getting someone into skiing that you guys are finding that you're able to do better than everybody else?
Yeah, a couple things. I mean, this one goes back to the roots of Taos Ski Valley and the Blake family. Ernie Blake was the founder, and we do have some challenging terrain. Now, we've got the greens, we've got the blues, we've got the blacks, but we've got some very challenging terrain. So if you're looking to improve your skiing, this is the place to do it. Ernie felt that because we had challenging terrain, the best way to get people to enjoy the mountain is to have them improve in their skiing ability. And
I
the better
agree.
you are in your skiing ability, the more you're going to get out and enjoy some of the steeps or the narrows or the graded terrain. So that was a big belief of his. And he, along with Jean Maillet, who was from France, who was also one of the founders and with the building known as the Hotel Saint Bernard, they created the ski week. And you would come in on Sunday, you'd leave on Saturday. Every day from 10 to 12 for 2 hours, you would be on mountain with instruction, guided instruction on mountain every day, 10 to 12. Then the afternoon you'd have off, known as
Wow.
the ski week. We still have the ski week. It's still a
I do.
fantastic program.
Yeah.
So the Ernie Blake Snow Sports School has got great history uh, because of that early thinking, but also because of the type of terrain we have. Uh, we've been known for the challenging terrain, but we know that we're also going to get a lot of beginners. And as part of
Hmm.
this revitalization, we renovated a building. We now call it the Rio Hondo Learning Center. We connected that building to our base area with a short gondola. We call it a gondolita. It's a very short gondola. And when we put in the Rio Hondo Learning Center, we said every decision we make has to be in an effort to make it easy for the beginner and as easy as possible, especially for children and for families to get children into the sport. So step one is you
Hmm.
jump on the gondolita. The kids love that. They're on a gondola ride. They ride to the learning center. Then when we drop them off, we have a chair, a chairlift chair where we turn it into a scale. So now they measure themselves. We have an aspen tree where they measure their height. So when they're going to get their rental, they're starting to have some enjoyment. And we have a little rock climbing wall. So the kids are running to the activity and the parents can easily separate themselves rather than have the kids fearful hanging on to the parents.
That's so
Once they
interesting.
enter the building, they move through the building fairly seamlessly. But the trail, we've completely recontoured so that we've got 0% where they actually walk around the snow yard, 6% on the first magic carpet, 8%, then they go to 10%, then they go up on a triple lift and they go 12 to 14%, eventually to 25%. We call it the perfect progression. So we
Mm.
designed into the slope a gradual progression of grades. And if you can get to 25% grade, you have graduated from what we call Strawberry Hill, and you could go up lift
Got it.
one and go to the big mountain. So that type of instruction and that type of progression where you're making it as easy as possible on the first timer, our instructors are saying it now takes them one day to to do what it used to take them 3 days, because the terrain has been shaped to make it as easy as
Wow.
possible on the first timer.
That's really cool. And I think that there's so many things that you talked about there that are really thoughtful about what are the challenges outside the just learning the skiing itself for the parents, for the kids to get them excited about it because if it's a first time, they don't know what they're getting into. I remember it was kind of a painful experience getting into snowboarding. It was not enjoyable, right? Like you want to you're like, what am I getting myself into? It's just nonstop falling, and all my friends left me, and I'm just here like trying to fall as least amount as possible. And then there's the concern about getting up on the mountain and then making that safe for everybody else that's skiing as well. So as you improve your ski level, your snowboarding level, you're not only I think there's some risk avoidance, obviously, of crashes and injury avoidance that comes along with it. So there's so many reasons to take lessons, and we're trying to incorporate this more into our outdoor recreation activities in every aspect, mountain biking, and I can't wait to take some snowboarding lessons as well, because it's you're going to get better. You're going to be able to do more fun stuff. So you're going to get more value and more enjoyment every single time you go on a ski trip. And I think most of us after we've been skiing for snowboarding for a couple of years, you get in this routine of, well, I've already taken lessons once. Like, why would I want to go spend half a day taking lessons where I could be out skiing? But I think what I'm looking forward to, and maybe you can share some more insight there, is that as you take those lessons and as you improve, you're just going to have a better and better time. You're going to be able to ride more terrain and do things and just have a more overall more enjoyable trip.
Yeah, and I'd like to add to that, and which is the knowledge of the mountain and the knowledge of the mountain that you are on that day. So a lesson, people think of a lesson of, okay, I'm going to teach you to do A, B, and C, but part of it is what is the best terrain for you.
Mm,
Part of it, and today was the perfect example. You have a little bit of breeze overnight. Well, on certain facing slopes, we had beautiful 12 to 14 inches of powder, and some other slopes, it was a little bit windswept. So finding the best aspect, knowing the
interesting.
weather conditions on the mountain, knowing the best conditions for that day, knowing where those secret stashes are. But part of it is just the guiding of the mountain and to assess somebody's ability level and say, okay, I'm going to bring you to the terrain that really works for you best. I think that's as big of it as just the routine of a lesson itself, learning the history of the mountain, uh,
Absolutely.
learning some of the culture of the local culture as well. So I think there's a big part of it. Uh, if you equate a lesson to simply taking instruction, I think that's too narrow a view. I think the
Hmm.
guiding aspect, the learning about the mountain, learning about the weather. Some days we've got drier snow up high and a little bit, it might be a little softer down below for some reason, or vice versa. But that's going to give you a much more enjoyable experience rather than struggling and trying to figure it out and find it wherever you go, right? It's just like you go to the cities, people that bring you to the nice neighborhoods. You have a better experience when the locals are showing you around,
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And just navigating the mountain, like, hey,
right?
take one up. You want to go to two, and then hit seven, and then spend your afternoon over there. And before before the ski lifts are closing down, you can get a couple extra runs in by getting over here and taking four a couple times. And by the way, Kachina might close at two, but some of those things, it takes you half the afternoon in frustration just to figure out, well, what do we want to do? So
Well, one of the classic ones here is, I think we may be one of the only ski resorts in the country that have, we have green, blue, black, and double black diamonds off lift one,
yeah, that's a
and
great point.
which is our base area lift.
Yeah.
So we'll get snow, and people immediately they want to go up high. They take lift one to lift two. They want to go up on the ridge. They want to go for a hike. Meanwhile, we've got the front side steeps that nobody is skiing because everybody wants to go up high.
That's
So,
funny.
like little things like that, where you know your way around the mountain, or you know how it's skiing on a
Mhm.
specific day. really makes a difference.
Yeah, I that now that I think about it, I don't know if another mountain that you could take the base trail lift off up and typically hit like great black diamond runs right off of it, right back down to the base. Like right
Yeah.
at the base, you're finishing off on a black diamond, which is amazing.
Right. If you select to do that, absolutely.
Yeah,
Right. And
if you
then
choose
we got
that.
the
Yeah.
double blacks. We got Ernie's North Americans. I mean, these are great, long, 1,500-foot vertical, gladed, steep trails. So, or you can
Yeah.
take white feather, the green one. But
Sure.
that variety is nice.
That's really cool. So David, is this I would love to learn a little bit more about you and what got you in the ski industry, and is this your first time running a resort, or give us a little bit more background about David and what got you here, and then second part, what is it like to run a ski resort, and what are all the different things that go into even opening up for the day?
Sure. Um, well, I think I've got a little bit of a fairly unique background versus some other resort operators. I I I traveled as a budget backpacker in my 20s, and after hitting Indonesia and Thailand and parts of Africa and Nepal and all these wonderful places, I decided, okay, it's time to go land somewhere. But I wanted to be overseas, and I wanted to be in the mountains, and I wanted to try to figure out how to put together a job where we could possibly make a little bit of money to support more travel. So I ended up going to Japan, and this is in the early 90s, and the Japanese economy is booming. And I went to a ski resort, and I lived there, and I my first job was shoveling snow and uh, working in a little tea shop, and I started to learn the language. And after about a couple of years living in Japan, the gentleman that owned the tea shop, his name is Fudahashi-san, asked me, he said, "Hey, I've got a friend in Tokyo that has a resort consulting business. What do you say? Do you want to go work for him?" And I said, "Fudahashi-san, I know nothing about resorts and I know nothing about consulting. I'm not going to do a very good job." He said, "Yes, but you're American and you understand leisure. You will be great." So I went
Interesting.
down to Tokyo and I got the job. And my job was and this is the Japanese were building ski resorts 4 or 5 or 6 a year. They were building new marinas, new water parks. They were building golf courses. It was the go-go days. It was booming. We would build a resort in North America once every 10 years. They were building 5 or 6 in one single year.
Wow, that's incredible.
So my job was to go out and find the experts. I called the founder of Vail. I called the mayor of Whistler. I called some folks from Europe, and I would bring them to Japan, and we would put on these symposiums to introduce development techniques to the Japanese. And I knew nothing about this. My job was to find them, bring them in,
Sure.
and I was known as Joho Kokon, which is information exchange. My job was to make sure that they're exchanging the information to learn about this. And over the years, you start to pick up a thing or two because you're in this role. And eventually, I worked for a design firm that laid out resorts in Japan and Korea. We then built the resort in Japan. We built the resort in Korea. So my very beginning in the industry was in Asia, where things were booming and there's a lot of opportunity. But I never operated a resort. I was more on the design and build and construction side of it.
Sure.
Moved back to the States, continued in the development world, spent some time in Aspen, spent some time in Stowe, Vermont during the revitalization of that resort in the early 2000s. And again, with the changing of the guard here in Taos, the new owners were looking for somebody to help steward this revitalization. So I got the call, and I came out with my wife, and we looked around and fell in love with the place and the culture of the town. And so we moved here. This is our fifth season. since we moved from Vermont.
Oh wow. And I couldn't agree more with about the culture that you fell in love with here. It's so unique. It's very different than the rest of the country, at least as much as we've seen so far. And I can um, see how you love it. So, what does it take to run the operations? I can't imagine everything that goes into it. You've got parking lots, you've got the hospitality side, you got to get the chairlifts running, and then there's the whole safety. What are all maybe what are all the different departments that you oversee and things that run to uh, keep people having a great experience on the mountain?
Yeah, you're right. There, it is complex, and it's a business of many businesses. We run a hotel. We run 7 or 8 or 9 restaurants. We run lifts, which is uphill transportation. We have patrol, which is, because there's a first responder aspect of that. But to answer your question, how do you do it? You have to find really good people that have their area of expertise on that aspect of the business. We have about 65 departments. So when we put
Wow.
together our annual budget, every department puts together a plan, a brief. Okay, here's what this department is going to achieve this year. They put together a budget, and then we roll that up into our overall plan. Departments like vehicle maintenance, okay, they're taking care of the grooming machines and the snowmobiles. You've got facilities, they're making sure all the buildings are running. You've got ski patrol, we've got grooming, snowmaking, risk management, food and beverage, HR to oversee all of the aspects of hiring and retaining your staff, accounting functions. Now we've got functions with respect to our B-Corp ethos, and we're looking to
Absolutely.
put together a plan for net zero 2030. So we now have a net zero 2030 department just to focus on all the environmental stuff that we would like to do and the measurement of those things. So the list goes on. We have a ski school, snow sport school, adult snow sport school, and children's snow sport school. So the list goes on about the departments, but I think when you ask, how do you do it? Uh, just like anything, it's many small pieces that need to be run properly. And again, find the best you can in the hotel business, find the best you can in the restaurant business, and set the direction and let them go.
Yeah, and your staff, I could tell that it's working because this it's about the people. When you visit the resort, I think it's the feeling that you get, the welcome feeling, the hospitality, and not just when you're in the hotel or the bar, or it's just everywhere on the resort, even the chairlift person and the parking lot attendant. It all comes together to provide the amazing experience that you guys are doing. Speaking of vehicle maintenance, I really appreciate that you guys have some older blue trucks running. So keep them running as long as you can. I think environmentally, that's great. You have, repair these vehicles and keep them going, but it gives a really cool feel when you show up at the resort to have these bright blue New Mexico colored vehicles driving around. I really like them. And even your shuttle, it's like the trailer that you stand on. I thought that was really unique. It gives you like this, in a way, visiting a historical resort feel, which is really rare now. And I really enjoyed that.
There is an old school aspect to having some of those vehicles and having those cattle cars shuttle you to and from the parking lots. And we're independent, right? So
Yeah.
many resorts now are becoming part of a bigger conglomerate, and that's okay. They do a great job, but I think the fact that we're independent allows us to uh, be ourselves a little bit more. And one of the things we do with our staff, we don't have big, massive training manuals. We ask people to do 4 things. It's to be themselves, uh, be friendly, be helpful, and work hard. And if you can do that, you probably get about 80% of the way there. We can teach you the technical skills. Um, but yeah, no, at the list, at the bottom of the list, we have music at the lifts, and if a lifty wants to take off his jacket because it's a little warm under the sun, that's okay, right? And so just that having just a little bit more of a relaxed environment, I think people pick up on it. I mean, you picked up on it. You felt that when you were here because it's not as corporate. And a lot of that is because we are independent. A lot of it is because we're in northern New Mexico, where people are hospitable. It is a very warm climate. The people are wonderful, so I think that rubs off on us as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And more than, and I was going to make this point earlier when you were talking about the mountain and what makes Taos really unique. It's really cool that how far south it is, but how high it is. So you're not getting these freezing cold temperatures on a snowboarding day. It's relatively warm compared to other resorts that you might go to. So I thought that was really cool about snowboarding here, even on powder day or the day after. It was, really comfortable to go out and have a great day.
It's the solar aspect, right? So we're much further south. We say
Yep.
it's where the Rockies begin, but we're further south. So when that sun is out, it may be cold. It may be in the 20s. It may be in the 10s, uh, or colder. But when that sun is out, and we don't have a lot of wind here, it feels warm. That the sun is
Yeah.
just brilliant, and that's really special to northern New Mexico, southern Colorado area.
That's amazing. I hope everyone is feeling as inspired as I am to keep coming back to Taos or give it a visit for your first time. What are
Thank you.
some of the
Love to have
things
you
that you
back.
guys are working on for the next few years that we could look forward to? I know you talked about a lot of the B Corp items, but is there like uh, new things coming that you'd like to share? What, and especially for the summer, is there summer activities that you guys are growing? And is it a summer destination yet, or is that something you guys are working on for the future?
No, that's a great question. I'm glad you asked it, and you mentioned that uh, your organization is all about human powered activities. That is part of our decision making. We are not doing roller coasters. We're not doing zip lines. Uh, we believe in human powered activities. We also believe in the mountains are moving into summer and moving into fall. So we now have a new mountain bike network that has been installed, and we opened it for the first time last year.
Awesome.
We also have Via Ferrata, and there are not many Via Ferrata courses across the country. Via Ferrata is Italian for Iron Road, and in Italy, you used to hike up high and you couldn't get over to the next mountain because there might be a rock band or a rock face or something, and they would put in these rungs or ladders or steel cableways that you hook into to get yourself across and onto the next section. They call that Via
Okay.
Ferrata. There are now Via Ferrata courses in northern New Mexico, North America. Jackson, Telluride. I think A Basin has put one in. I think Mammoth has put one in. But we're one of the early adopters of that, and we now have a Via Ferrata in the summer, and
Oh,
it's
cool.
outstanding. It is the thrill of rock climbing. You're on the face. You're up high. It's
Okay.
exhilarating, but you're not hanging by your fingertips, and you're connected in nicely. You've got great holes, you've got ladders, you've got nice grips, and you've got guides. We've got a guided Via Ferrata course that opened last year. We're very excited to get back into it this year. That was outdoors, so we were COVID safe. It worked out very well. So yes, we're doing a lot more in the summer. We're also doing a lot more on the educational front, and I think that's a big aspect of what these mountain resorts need to be doing. We're the host of the world of the B-Corp Leadership Summit. And every year we've got the
Amazing.
30 leading CEOs of B corporations like Patagonia, like Ben and Jerry's coming here to exchange ideas and to start to envision what the next 10 or 15 years of the B corporation movement is. We're starting to plan a program to have a DEI leadership summit because diversity, equity, and inclusion in the outdoors is something that we all need to really truly understand, embrace, and act upon. So the only way we can do it is get people here, start talking about it, and really understanding what that means. And moving into this aspect of the social responsibility, I think is really important. Invite people to the outdoors, welcome them to the outdoors, and let's make the outdoors more accessible to more people. I think that's really something that is important because we see it firsthand this winter. the respite of the mountains is so good for the heart and the soul that we just need to broaden the audience as best we can.
Absolutely. And I would love to partner together and learn. I'm excited to learn what you guys are doing. So organizations like us and can take some of those best practices and start to apply them. There's a lot of great conversation happening, and listen to it and the outdoor retailer show. I just hope we can quickly um, get the message out. And I think the second part of that is getting people out there responsibly is something that we really want to focus on, because we're very careful about not loving the outdoors to death. There's so many other factors like wildlife and leave no trace principles and time of the year, that we want to make sure that every destination, whatever that might be for each destination, that we highlight that out on those pages. If there's a sheep migration or bighorn sheep conservation area that needs to be aware, that people need to be aware of, that they can avoid, we want to work on initiatives like that. So as you guys work on your efforts, we're going to continue to follow and partner and see how we can educate and bring as many people outdoors as possible, because outdoors is for everyone, and the value that we get out of it, physical, mental, um, even spiritual for sometimes, right? It's just, it should be shared with everyone. And I think that would make a better planet. And I really appreciate everything that you guys are doing,
Yep.
um, by leading the efforts on a mountain, in such a unique mountain and in such a unique area. Thank you so much, David.
Great. Thank you so much. I appreciate the time.
Yeah, it was great talking to you today.